I call to order this special meeting and work session for the Gladstone City Council on Tuesday, March 28th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. The City of Gladstone is abiding by guidelines set forth in House Bill 2560, which requires the governing body of the public body, to the extent reasonably possible, to make all meetings accessible remotely through technological means and provide opportunity for members of the general public to remotely submit oral and written testimony during meetings to the extent in-person oral and written testimony is allowed. Therefore, this meeting will be open to the public both in person and virtually using the Zoom platform. Zoom instructions are on the agenda for the meeting. We have a special meeting with basically one item on the agenda. That's to consider appointment to the vacant city council position number 4. And then we will adjourn into a work session with 2 items on the agenda, a report from Water Environmental Services, WES, their annual report, and also consideration of the Gladstone Pavement Management Plan and strategies for street funding maintenance. Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Huckabee.
Present.
Counselor Alexander.
Yes.
Counselor Reichel.
Present.
Counselor Roberts.
Present.
Counselor Garlington.
Here.
Mayor Milch.
Present. Let's stand for the flag salute, please. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, as you know, back in November, Councilor Anessa Hartman was elected to be the representative of House District 40 in the Oregon Legislature, thereby creating a vacancy on the City Council. And the council declared that vacancy in January and has done a couple of sets of interviews with applicants. Tonight, I'm hopeful we'll be able to finish that process. There were reasons why a majority of the council earlier on decided that we should extend the application process. Are folks ready to make a decision tonight, or does anyone want to pause and extend this any longer? Okay, I'm not seeing any objections to trying to pursue tonight. Okay, so this is what we'll try to do. I'd like us to, we have interviewed applicants for this on 2 different occasions. We have 3 people now who have applied, have been interviewed, who have indicated an interest in this position, a continuing interest, and who have been verified as qualified to serve. We have not deliberated or discussed the applicants at all up until tonight. And so tonight is our opportunity to do any deliberation we would like to do, to take action on determining whether there is a consensus on one particular applicant. And then after we reach a consensus, assuming we do, we would entertain a motion to appoint that person. But I want us to be sure that we have all do all the deliberation that we need to do. Now, I'm not hearing anyone feeling that we need to continue the process any longer. We do have 3 applicants. I will entertain a motion to start the process. I will entertain a motion to nominate all 3 applicants for the position, the open position on the City Council. And, okay. Oh, I said I would entertain that motion, so let someone else, you can make the motion if you want to make it, just to put it on the floor for us.
Well, then so moved.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Alexander. Is there a second? And seconded by Councilor Huckabee. So with all 3 applicants having been nominated, the process we can use is similar to that which we've used in other meetings, where we have a spreadsheet and we can vote for one of the 3, either Sierra Cook or Maria Mitchell or Trevor Taylor. And then if one applicant gets a majority of the votes of the city council, then I would entertain a motion to appoint that person to the council. And then we would take a separate vote on that. So is that procedure clear to the council? Okay. But we can do any discussion or deliberation, or if you want to be transparent with the reason for your vote, I would allow you to do that at this time.
Can we put for the record that Trevor Taylor is not present?
Okay,
If we were appointing tonight, he's
Yeah.
not present.
he's not present currently. Yes, thank you. All right. Councilor Alexander, did you have a comment?
I just had a question sort of, I guess, or I don't know. So I've been asked about this and they said, so if somebody's already on two committees, can they serve? I mean, can I be on the council and be on traffic and safety or plan? I mean, so if one of the applicants is already on two, then do they stay on those and then they're a counselor, or do they have to, what's the process in that?
No, a city councilor cannot serve on one of the committees except the budget committee, which we serve by virtue of being a city councilor. But when we had people elected to this council, like when I myself was elected as mayor, I resigned my seat on the planning commission and the budget committee, where I served as not a city councilor, but just as a citizen.
Okay.
And anyone who is currently serving on the committee would have to give up those seats and then that would create vacancies for those seats.
So then we would have to, in turn around and fill those vacancies.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's thank you.
Good question.
Luckily, this year, we've had no shortage of applications for our committees.
Yes, it's been a good year for citizen
has.
involvement. Yes, that's true. Any other questions, comments? Should I assume we are ready to vote to
Mayor,
choose
if I
among the
could-
applicants? Yes, Councilor
Sorry.
Reichel.
I know that sometimes I kind of get lost because I'm on the screen. I just wanted to, it's just a comment. I wanted to thank all three of them for engaging in this process, and that no matter how the vote goes tonight, I really, really hope that all three of you continue to be involved and continue to pursue seats on the council, because I think you're all fantastic. So thank you. That's all.
Thank you for that comment, Councilor Reichel. Yes, that's important to say. We not only, as Councilor Huckabee said, are we getting good applicants for the advisory committees too, but to have a total of 5 people originally step up for the council seat is good too. So thank you for reminding us of that. All right. Seeing no other deliberation, Tammy, will you call the roll, and councilors, just vote for one of the appointees. One of the applicants, excuse me. Go ahead.
Counselor Huckabee,
Sarah Cook,
Counselor Alexander,
Mitchell,
Counselor Reichel,
Maria Mitchell,
Counselor Roberts,
Sierra Cook.
Counselor Garlington,
Maria Mitchell,
Mayor Milch.
Sierra Cook. Now, there's a 3-3 tie, which means that, we don't have a consensus. And so I think we need to do some more discussion on more deliberation in order to break the tie. Counselors, we had interviews and took notes. Would anyone like to share reasons for their selection or anything else that will help us to reach a consensus?
well, I'll go first.
Okay,
I just want to start by saying that I appreciated Mr. Taylor and Ms. Mitchell coming forward in a timely manner I know that Ms. Cook decided after thinking that after Matt had dropped out, but these other two people came forward in the time that we asked them to come forward. And I think that that's really important and that we, I appreciate the fact that she has served in the library system in moving forward in that process. And we all know that there are hundreds of people in Gladstone that have pushed forward this library, but it takes a village. And some of the other things that she's involved in, I think that she, I hope it's okay that I use she. I apologize. I should have looked at that. I believe that the things that she does for this community and for the county speaks volumes in her volunteerism.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm voting for Sierra because Sierra has her thumb on the pulse of this council for years. She's aware of all the issues that we need to address. She's present in one form or another at every single council meeting. She has committed time to 2 committees. She does tremendous volunteer work in our community as well. I really appreciated during her interview, instead of making her own goals for the council, she recognized that this is an interim position and she will be focused on the goals of the council that we have already set, instead of kind of straying from those. And she wants to work to get those done.
I will say that I was also most impressed by the fact that Sierra Cook had kept track of what was going on in the city, had served already on some important committees in city work, and had, I felt, a strong awareness of the issues before us and the role of an interim counselor. And that strongly swayed my vote. As I said before, all 3 applicants were certainly qualified, but my preference was for applicant Sierra Cook.
I'll jump in there with, so I'm going to echo everything Mindy said, because, we could have not even put it out a month and had the vote already, because those people did step up, put in their applications and didn't wait till someone dropped out to put in an application. So, I didn't, and then I don't want to have to go through to fill another position. So that's why I'm voting for Mitchell.
All right.
I think we lose committee members throughout the entire year, and that's part of the job of the council, is to fill those roles no matter what month of the year that it is in. And I think we, as a council, decided to reopen the application process. So it wasn't just a 1-person or 2-person thing. It was a majority vote to do that. And if everybody felt differently, then that majority vote would have gone the other way.
And I also think when we did the applications or the interviews, if I'm right, I don't have it in front of me, but I think when asked if she would run again, Mitchell said yes. And then I think Sierra Cook said she'd just have to see how it goes. So it's sort of like somebody in there for the long term that's would run and would pursue the position.
To clarify, Maria Mitchell said she would make that decision closer to the time of the
When she
election.
was asked, Greg said, when she was asked.
Not on her application, when she was asking the interview.
I would ask that you not interrupt me when I'm speaking, Mindy. Thank you.
My choice for applicant Sierra Cook was because I thought she brought forth a more knowledgeable perspective of what the issues that are facing Gladstone currently are. And I felt that based off the responses, that would be a more apt solution to helping us move forward in a more streamlined and productive fashion.
All right. Councilor Reichel, would you like to share anything?
My reason for voting is primarily just Maria's longevity in the community and her dedication. I believe that she does have a good understanding of what's happening in our community. And, you know, she works here, she lives here, and has been here for quite some time. And I just feel like she would be a solid addition to our team.
All right, we've had a chance to hear from each member of the council. Would you like to take another vote? Hearing no objection, Tammy, will you call the roll, please? Oh, clear the ballots first. And then according to the procedure that we have adopted as a council, if no one receives a majority on the first ballot, we vote again on the two candidates who receive the highest number of votes. So we can remove Trevor Taylor's name from the spreadsheet. And you will be voting for either Sierra Cook or Maria Mitchell on this round of votes.
Before we proceed, can I ask a
Yes.
clarifying question?
Yes.
In the event we once again reach a stalemate, how do we proceed?
Well, that will be up to us to determine. Our council rules say, or the charter says, that we shall appoint someone. I mean, we could continue this process and never make an appointment, but we would then not be abiding by our own commitment to making a decision.
Certainly.
So, you know, how we go about making that change, it might depend on one or more counselors changing their votes. But if that doesn't happen tonight, I'm up to other suggestions as how we can do this. Yeah, if somebody wants to flip a coin or something like that, that could also be a process that you would choose. But let's try a second vote and see where we go from here. Tammy, call the roll, please.
Counselor Garlington,
Maria Mitchell,
Counselor Roberts,
Sierra Cook.
Counselor Reichel,
Maria Mitchell,
Counselor Alexander,
Maria Mitchell.
Counselor Huckabee,
Sierra Cook,
Mayor Milch.
Sierra Cook. Okay, I don't see any flexibility on the part of anybody at this point. Not that asking you to be flexible is what this is about, but all right. Any suggestions for how we proceed from here?
I have a couple suggestions. One is you could table it, adjourn, go through your work session, and then reconvene and have more deliberations. The second one is you could decide that you want to do follow-up interviews with the top two candidates at a later date and reconsider again. But you are correct. The municipal code says an applicant who receives a majority of the votes by the current council members will be appointed to the vacant position. If no applicant receives a majority vote on the first ballot, the council will continue to vote on the two applicants who receive the most votes until an applicant receives a majority of the councilors voting.
I would propose that we table it then. I'd like to continue this discussion, but I think that we should also move through this work session and we can think about it as we go and come back at it in the end of the evening.
All right. It's been moved by Councilor Roberts that we table this matter and reconvene in the special session at the conclusion of the work session. Is there a second to that motion?
second,
All right, it's been moved by Councilor Roberts, seconded by Councilor Huckabee. Tammy, call the roll, please.
Counselor Garlington,
yes.
Counselor Roberts,
Yes.
Counselor Reichel,
yes.
Counselor Alexander,
Yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the motion passes. So this issue, or this agenda item is tabled until later in the meeting. So we will adjourn the first part of the special session now and re-adjourn as a work session and go to item 2 on our agenda, which is the report from the Water Environmental Services Annual Report. Greg Geist, come forward, please.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, Mayor Milch and councilors. My name is Greg Geist. I'm the Director of Clackamas Water Environment Services. You should have received our 2022 annual report. I think this is the 4th one that we've done here. First of all, it's a pleasure to meet most of you actually in person and in this nice new facility. So thank you for having us tonight. I am going to go through most of the major points of the district report that you have in front of you, but also answer any questions. I'd like this to be conversational and talk about some of the bigger projects that we have coming up. So for those of you who don't know, Clackamas Water Environment Services for Gladstone does your wastewater treatment. The city of Gladstone owns and operates their pipes around the city, but those pipes collect wastewater in the city and send it to Clackamas West. Our job is to take what goes down your toilet and make clean water, energy, and natural fertilizer. And we're very proud of the work that we do and what we do for the community. It's all about clean water, community, economic development, and protection of public health. So a little bit about what we are. We serve about 190,000 people in the urbanized area of Clackamas County, everything from Westland and Oregon City up to Milwaukee and out to Happy Valley. We have 2 main wastewater treatment facilities that serve this area. One is our Tri-City facility, which is right across the 82nd Drive Bridge in Oregon City. And the second one is our Kellogg facility up in Milwaukee, right along Highway 99. So essentially if you draw a line, I'm going to be talking about rates here pretty soon too. So we have 2 different rate zones within our service district. Rate zone 1, which is Gladstone, Westland, and Oregon City, and rate zone 2, which is Milwaukee, Happy Valley, and unincorporated Clackamas County, essentially. So if you draw a line essentially through the skinny part of that green service area, rate zone 2 is to the north, rate zone 1 is to the south. So just to orient you a little bit on that. So again, there's 190,000 people that we serve, 2 major facilities. We treat about 7 billion gallons of wastewater per year. Like I said, we make clean water, we make electricity, and we make fertilizer out of that. Very proud of that. About 115 employees. We have about 360 miles of pipe in the ground and about 23 large pump stations that do what gravity can't do for us to get material to our facilities where we can reclaim it. Slide. Oh, so the way that we're structured is we're a department of Clackamas County. We're also a special district. We are governed by the Board of County Commissioners, and they reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the Board for Clackamas Water Environment Services. But essentially, it's the same folks. We also have a very robust 20-member advisory committee that includes members from the development community, environmental community, education, business owners, ratepayers, and elected officials. And Mayor Milch is kind enough to be the elected representative from Gladstone. Thank you. And I also want to introduce Christopher Bowker. He's a Gladstone resident and ratepayer. He's also a civil engineer, and he's going to come up and introduce himself.
Good evening. As Greg said, my name is Christopher Bowker. I live in the city of Gladstone. I fill one of the ratepayer positions on the advisory committee. I do not work for Wes. I've been on the advisory committee since it started, which I think was around 2017. So it's adding up. Let's see. I'm a civil engineer, and that's really partly why I joined the advisory committee back in 2017. A lot of the challenges that I deal with in my day-to-day routine I think are pretty similar to the challenges that West faces and what they do. And so my hope and goal was really that my experiences, which include asset management, capital improvement, project planning, project management, that could really help guide and influence some of the infrastruccture decisions being made at West that ultimately kind of trickle back and impact me and my community. And I'll say that I'm pretty happy with what West has done. They've demonstrated that they'll take the feedback from our committee. They respond to it. They've actually made or changed policy and project decisions based on our feedback, which I think is exactly what you can hope for. So it's been a really good experience. I think that's it. Yeah. Does that work?
Thank you, Christopher. Yes. And he definitely guides and influences our projects. And I very much appreciate having that level of both expertise, willingness to contribute, and commitment to the community. It's kind of what we're all about. So I'll start with the financial piece. So for every dollar that is paid into West through rates, about 66% goes to operations and maintenance. That's the day-to-day work that we do every day: staff, electricity, chemicals, repairs, all things that it takes to run two large industrial facilities, essentially. 25% then goes to infrastructure financing and reserves. So that's the money that we use to spend on capital projects and infrastructure. We also have about 9% overall in debt payments for projects that we've either taken state revolving fund, federal pass-through loans for, or in some cases done bonding on our own. The other thing I wanted to mention as far as rates, we have a long time policy and financial strategy within West where we're committed to keeping rates affordable and really competitive with our peers. And I'll show you more on that, but hopefully you'll see that. And, we need to meet the needs of both a growing community, a rapidly growing community in some areas within our service district, and areas that have real infrastructure refurbishment and rehabilitation needs. We have some of the newest sewer in the state, and literally some of the oldest in Oregon City. So it's a real mishmash, and I think hopefully you'll find that we're through a lot of hard work and a lot of partnership in a pretty good place to be right now and into the future. The other thing I wanted to mention is as we talk about rate increases and rates, we recently in 2022 implemented a new federal low-income household water assistance program that will raise the amount of income necessary to qualify and make it much simpler for folks like renters to get that type of assistance. It's difficult right now for us to work with anyone but homeowners, which tend to be landlords. So we're optimistic about that moving forward. So for Gladstone, last year, the Board of County Commissioners overall across our rate zones and across the services that we provide, we had an average rate increase of 3.2%. For the city of Gladstone, who only receives what we call wholesale sewer service, that is, you guys collect and all we do is treat your wastewater. That was a 4.9% increase. So average since 1819 to 2022-23 was 3.7%. We expect to see that range 4.9% being pretty steady. Right now we're at $26.55 a month per household. I'll show you a slide in a minute. I'll just move on to it. So when you look at what that means, one of our kind of our hallmarks is a 10-year rate harmonization plan. So back in 2016, West formed a municipal partnership amongst the actually 3 districts, but 2 that matter for us tonight, that essentially put all of our eggs in one basket. And so through that, we wanted to eventually have everyone, if you're receiving a service, whether in some areas of the county, not Gladstone, we do stormwater management, and surface water management. That's a separate fee, as it is in Gladstone. We do collection system, collection and conveyance, the pipes and the pump stations. That's a separate activity. And then we do the wastewater treatment. That's a third service that we provide. And so by 2031, we want to have rates harmonized across the district. So no matter where you are, you're paying for, if you're getting a service from West, you're paying the same as everybody else. So what that looks like for Gladstone, well, if you look across the top, that's our rate zone 2. So that's our northern service area. So we provide collection and treatment, as well as the wholesale and the retail, the collection and treatment or the collection and conveyance and the treatment. You'll also see the yellow line there. That's the legacy debt. So those folks up north took on about $120 million of debt in 2011 for the construction of what we call the membrane bioreactor facility here in Oregon City. So basically, over time, the districts became intertwined. From an engineering standpoint, it made sense. We had capacity at Tri-City. Our Kellogg facility in Milwaukee was at capacity. So agreements and arrangements and pipelines were built over the course since the 90s, basically. That all came to a head in 2016. We're one happy family now, I hope. And we're going to continue to invest together for the benefit of the region. So that yellow portion of the retail rate that we see up on top there is that $120 million debt that our rate zone 2 customers are paying. That is going to be reduced over time. We're going to pay that off. It's actually going to be paid off in, I think, 2032. So it's very tiny. You can't see it out there. So what we want to do is by 2031 is have that legacy debt retired. So they've paid for that piece of infrastructure that they needed to accommodate the growth that was happening and continues to happen in Happy Valley. So what that means for rate zone 1 is that we are going to gradually increase rates. This is the plan, from $26.55 to $39.25 between now and 2031. That sounds like, and that is a significant amount. It's 5%. It equates to, on average, about $20 per household per year. Yeah, any questions on that?
At that treatment facility that was built, what's the additional unused capacity for the growing boundaries within Happy Valley and Damascus that way?
So in the wastewater treatment field, we think about capacity in 3 different ways. There's dry weather capacity. That's the summertime, and that's purely dependent on the number of households that are contributing to our system. Then there's wet weather capacity, which is the peak wet weather storm event. And then there's solids handling capacity. We just upgraded for solids handling, so I'll take that off the table. What we're talking about with that MBR, membrane bioreactor, was that dry weather capacity. So I couldn't tell you exactly how many. It is capable of handling that through, I think, 2035. So they kind of paid for that. It's available. The real issue, and I'll get into it, at our Tri-City facility now that we put the dry weather capacity in 2011, we put the solids handling capacity in essentially last year, and now we're looking at peak wet weather flows. And so the amount of material, part of when that MBR was built, there was a pipeline that was built between essentially the CarMax and the Lowe's up off of Highway 205 and an interceptor that basically takes the flow that's coming from Happy Valley that would otherwise go to our Kellogg facility in Milwaukee, peels it off and sends it down here. And that operates all the time, anywhere from 2 million gallons a day to 10 million gallons per day during wet weather flows. The peak flows at our facility at the Tri-City facility are in excess sometimes of 75 million gallons per day. So the wet weather capacity issue at Tri-City is really not because, yes, the pipeline contributes about 10 million of that, but the vast majority of that originates in Westland, Gladstone, and Oregon City.
So just to be clear, and the reason that pipeline is diverting down to the Tri-City facility is that there's no more room for expansion. Is that correct, at the Kellogg facility?
That is correct.
And Tri-City has expanded a couple of times recently, as you said, and is continuing to expand in your future plans.
Right. We, at some point before my time, purchased about 15, well, we have an additional 15 acres of land over there that, while it's landfill, and we'll have to mitigate it, is available for wastewater treatment facilities. The Kellogg facility is not. It's got a park on one side, a freeway or highway on the other, residential and the river. And before my time, much before my time, there was a lot of hand wringing, a lot of difficult conversations, I would say, between Wes and Milwaukee about the future of that facility and whether it should expand. There were studies done that it would have cost, to relocate that facility $500 million. I mean, it was just outlandish. And so we had to figure out a way to work as a community, as a region. And it just makes the most sense to do it at the Tri-City campus. And you'll see, hopefully I can show you that it's a huge benefit to you folks too. I mean, you have this massive customer base and growing that will now be contributing to the operations and maintenance, as well as the expansion and refurbishments that are happening, that they're essentially helping to pay for the facilities for the next 40 years worth of growth and paying for the refurbishment of the facilities that you've all been enjoying for the last 40 years. So I think it's a win-win. It's a great deal for them because they're not spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And it's a great deal for the former Tri-City service district, because you have this massive customer base instead of relying just on Westland, Oregon City, and Gladstone. Yes.
Do you anticipate? Sorry. Do you anticipate a capital project of some sort in up to 2032? As we're looking at these graphs, I mean, when you talk about that 15 acres, when at what point do you feel like something large will need to be done again?
Well, I think I'll address that in my presentation. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and just to give you an idea of where we're at, we do benchmark, and we want to make sure that we try to be competitive with our peers. And you can see Gresham there on the left, up to Portland, the large, of course, the most expensive on the right, and then the various rates that are charged within Wes's service area. So, for example, Johnson City, they only pay what we call retail, wholesale. They have their own collection system. We just treat their wastewater. So they pay $39 a month. If you're in West Lynn, it's a total of $50.58 per month. And if you're in West Rate Zone 2 retail, that's $52.15 a month. So where West provides both the wholesale, that is the treatment, and the retail, the collection and conveyance, we're nicely, I think, below our peers. And if I can go back, when those rates are harmonized in 2031, so that's 8 years out, we will still be right about maybe a couple dollars more than the average is today. And I think that's a very strong position to be in. As far as our capital plan, like Gladstone, we develop a 5-year capital improvement plan and adopt that. It's all about identifying, through studies, and I'll talk more about that, prioritizing what our needs are, adjusting that, putting it through a financial model. We can't ever, that I know of, build everything we want to build when we want to build it. We simply have to make sure that we don't shock people's rates. And so it's a compromise, and it's a conversation amongst our financial folks and our engineering folks and our operational folks. And we find, frankly, a best fit. And we think that we've found that pretty effectively. And to answer part of your question, our current 5-year capital improvement plan is $192 million. And I'll talk more about some of the bigger ticket items associated with that. Again, it's all based on planning. I know, Gladstone a few years ago did, water planning and sewer planning, collection system planning. And that's what, ultimately led to you folks adjusting your rates and coming up with a plan and a capital improvement plan. We did the same exact thing, mostly predicated on our sanitary system master plan, which is our collection system plan, and what we call a Willamette facilities plan, which is essentially how we are planning to upgrade and rehabilitate our treatment works. So that's both. And we call it Willamette Facilities Plan because in effect, Kellogg and Tri-Cities work in tandem. So we wouldn't do a facilities plan just for individually because they're so intimately interconnected. And we really think between all of these studies, we've done our homework. We know what we need to build. We know what the needs are. And I think we have a strong financial, both a strong capital improvement plan to address it and a strong financial plan to make sure that we can pay for it, stay competitive, and have reasonable and predictable rate increases over time, which is what, we're all shooting for. So as I showed a couple slides ago, we have rate projections all the way out to at least 2032, but we also have an annual budget, right? So we have a 5-year capital improvement plan that's updated every year along with our budget. We have a long-term financial plan and rate forecast. We need to make sure that we're trending along the line that we need to be trending on, and that our revenues are what we expect them to be. Our growth is what is expected. Anyway, it's an iterative process. Through that, we get stakeholder input through our advisory committee and other stakeholders. And then ultimately it's the board that adopts our budget on an annual basis. So we plan long-term, we forecast long-term, we have long-term plans, but at the end of the day, it's an annual budget. So our Kellogg, I'll just mention this briefly. Essentially, we recently invested about $17 million in our Kellogg facility. And we have another over the next 7 years where we've got $40 million worth of projects. So basically everything that you see on the right-hand side of that slide that's not colored was refurbished or at least touched during that our $17 million series of projects over the last 3 to 4 years. And the stuff that is in color are the areas that we're going to be updating and refurbishing in the next 7 years. One of those things, again, it probably doesn't mean a whole lot to you folks because it's not in Gladstone, but if you drive by our facility on Highway 99, you'd see I like to call it the Mad Men administration building. It's straight out of 1974, and it hasn't changed since. So we have a pretty exciting project where we're going to be updating that facility, not rebuilding, remodeling it, not rebuilding it or tearing it down. But that's about a $3.5 million project, and we hope to kick that off in about a year. So our Tri-City facility, like I said, we recently completed a $37 million project. If you look at the picture on the left and the top, you'll see what look like, 2 large tanks on the right and kind of another large tank upper left, and then a green bubble in front of that. Basically everything from that green bubble to the left is new, and that was part of that solids handling upgrade project. I'm sure you could see from across the river. That was done. We're very excited about that. And with that project, we are now able to produce almost half of the electricity that facility uses on an annual basis. And that gives us essentially the solids handling capacity that we need out through, I believe it's 2037. So we've got a good run ahead of us with respect to capacity on the solid side. And when I say solids, that's really when I say we ultimately make fertilizer. It's those tanks are anywhere from 1 to 1.4 million gallons. The solids, the organics that comes into our facility through our treatment process winds up in those tanks. They're essentially like large stomachs. You put food in, and sometimes they make gas, and they do make gas, and that's what we use to burn to make electricity. Actually, I'll take a little diversion here. I also wanted to acknowledge the good neighbor agreement that we had or have with Gladstone. I think it's been a couple years now. And the red line shown there is the geographic extent. in which those funds can be expended. I think it's collectively between Oregon City and Gladstone about $250,000 a year. I know Gladstone is got some projects in the pipeline, and we're excited to help fund those. And I'm really proud of that agreement. We worked. Shelley Perini, who's a Wes employee, worked hard along with Administrator Betts. And I think we came up with something that really reflects the community, the needs of the community, and what the city and the city's priorities, and in an area that that the city would like to focus on. So we're happy to support. So as far as big projects coming up, like I said, we have wet weather issues or capacity issues at our Tri-City facility. We have an existing outfall. So if you, on the right-hand picture, upper right, that's our Tri-City facility. The gray dotted line is our current outfall. It's rated at right around, well, I think around 75 million gallons per day, and we have almost hit that. So we are nearing essentially at, from an engineering standpoint, capacity on that outfall. And so we're going to be building, and we're in design right now to build a second outfall that will follow the green dotted line from our facility along I-205 and out into the Willamette River. That's a $54 million project. And like I said, a lot of people would think, well, why do we need an additional outfall, or why should we be paying for an outfall that is going to handle future growth from Happy Valley? Well, I would remind folks that, again, that's only 10 million gallons of the 75 million gallons that we treat at that facility. So it really is, it would be necessary whether or not we had a connection with the folks in the north, and it would be a tremendous burden on the Tri-Cities collectively to build that at $54 million. Another example of how a regional facility, you get the economy of scale, and you can do these types of things that would just basically kind of kill smaller communities. The other thing that we're excited about is inflow and infiltration. So like I said, we have to treat those peak wet weather flows. We did a study a few years ago and looked at, well, what would it cost to just treat that flow, build bigger pipes and build more treatment works, versus what would it cost to reduce the amount, essentially fix the pipes. You can either build bigger pipes, build more treatment works, or fix the pipes out in the system. So we did a very systematic evaluation of that and found that if we fix the pipes, we still need to expand our wet weather capacity, which we're planning on doing. But collectively, we would save over $100 million over the next 20 years. So we made a decision and we offered intergovernmental agreements to all of the cities that we serve, where Wes will pay 33% of eligible projects, the projects that will reduce that rainwater and groundwater that's getting into the system. We're happy to pay for it, because if we don't pay for it now, everybody pays for it later in the form of chemicals, electricity, people, pipes. So we're excited about that. We do have one project in the works right now with Gladstone, and that's a rehab project for $485,000. So Wes is going to contribute $160,000 to that project. So we're excited about that. That's Oregon City has hit the ground running on that. We have several projects working with them. They don't know this yet. I haven't told them, but we ran some numbers, and if you look at the amount of revenue that we collect in Oregon, or will collect in Oregon City over the next few years, versus what we're returning to them on these projects, it's about 50%. So it's a great deal for Oregon City, but it's also a great deal for everyone, Milwaukee, Happy Valley, Gladstone, because we're avoiding those costs in the future.
And Greg, I just wanted to share, I believe at April work session is when we're bringing our I&I project to the council to update. And that's the one that Greg just alluded to, that they're helping participate financially on reimbursement with.
Another area where we're working with the city is the 82nd Drive pump station. That was I don't even know how old that pump station is. It's been around forever. Wes over the years has maintained that for the city. There's two main pump stations that serve Gladstone. Well, there's two pump stations. There's this relatively small 82nd Drive pump station that's just on the other side of I-205. And then a large pump station, we call it the 82nd, or the Gladstone pump station, sorry, that's down by Highway 99, right by the river. But yeah, so we've operated this facility, maintained it for years. We used to charge the city, but some years ago we stopped. But basically it's very much at the end of its useful life. And so we were doing a project where we're looking at rehabilitating a bunch of our pump stations, and we're able to partner with Gladstone to get this one included in the design work. And then we'll be hopefully coming back to the council at some point when the design work is done to have an IGA about how to construct this thing and maintain it moving into the future.
So Greg, is this another situation we're expecting that by working on a number of these pumps at the same time and sharing design, that we're going to be saving money because of that cooperation?
Yes, exactly. And when I say economy, this is a perfect example of the economy of scale where we can go out with a suite of projects, add one, and it's a very good deal. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just had that one you just showed, that pump station.
Mhm.
Now, does it run under the 205?
It does,
Back to-
yeah.
Okay. All right.
And the railroad tracks are, I think the railroad tracks are right there in the.
Yeah, right
Yeah.
about here. But so I just wondered, that runs back across into Gladstone.
Yeah.
Under the 205. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and again, this is maybe not of particular interest to Gladstone, but it's a big part of future work. This is about $40 million worth of work out in our collection system. And just to remind that, this is not something that Gladstone residents are paying for because they don't pay retail. This is retail. This is and SDCs. So it's accounting for the growth essentially that's happening out in Happy Valley. We need to upgrade the interceptors in order to get that material safely to our facility and to accommodate future growth. So we're going to be rehabbing, replacing, expanding over 5 miles of large interceptor, up to 5 feet in diameter over the next, construction starts in 2026. And if you notice that goes to, if you look in the upper left-hand portion of that cartoon, that's the pump station that I mentioned that's by the Lowe's and the CarMax. So ultimately we're expanding capacity there, and then we'll expand capacity down to the Tri-City facility. The initial expansion will take it from 10 million gallons a day to 20 million gallons per day. But again, primarily to handle the growth in Happy Valley, the dry weather flow. All right. And just in case you're wondering what an interceptor is, you have a service lateral at your house that goes out to the street, goes into what we call a local or a main sewer line, and those go into the regional, the big interceptor lines that ultimately convey to our facility. Another thing that I just think is a cool thing to do. So Wes in Happy Valley and unincorporated Clackamas County, the urbanized areas, we handle the surface water and stormwater responsibilities under the Clean Water Act. One of the things that we're investing in is this Three Creeks natural area. If you drive to the Clackamas Town Center, you drive right by it on Highway 99. It's right adjacent to the Clackamas Community College Harmony campus, and it's an 80-acre absolute gem in the middle of an urban area, and not many people know about it. It's the confluence literally of three creeks. That's why we call it Three Creeks. And we're going to be, we have already embarked on a rehabilitation project for that to help with downstream flooding, habitat, and water quality, stream health. That's going to be our next big surface water project. And the other thing I wanted, again, whether it's an IGA with Gladstone, early on in my tenure, I realized that for us to be successful, we need to partner. One of the ways that we do that is through our River Health Grant Program. It's about $300,000 a year. This past year, it went to, I think, 12 nonprofits and a couple private businesses that do great work out in the community to protect water quality. And do watershed education. You can see the kids with their notepads there. It just really furthers Wes's mission and leverages a lot of energy and a lot of human capital out there in the form of nonprofits that we just wouldn't be able to do without it. We've had a long relationship with Solve. This is our 5th year, and we just signed another 5-year contract. We sponsor a summer waterways cleanup series with Solve that involves hundreds of volunteers every year. We pick up thousands of pounds of trash along streams and rivers that would otherwise likely make it into our local waterways. We do have a kickoff event. Actually, I'm not sure if it's a kickoff, but we do have an event May 18th, in the morning at Meldrum Bar at 9 o'clock. I will send that information to Administrator Betts and make sure that she gets that out for folks that want to participate, whether it's you folks or the community. It's always a great event. Other Gladstone, and this is more of a question than anything. So for the past several years, 4 years, I think we've supported the Gladstone Community Festival, and we did the Sherry Hildreth Ovarian Cancer Walk and Run for the 4th consecutive year. We want to continue to sponsor and support events like that in Gladstone, and I welcome your thoughts on other events that you think Wes's message and mission could help with. And that's about all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions from counselors?
I would just, can you bring us up to date on what the West dollars have done for the parks?
The Good Neighbor Program?
Yeah, what have we used those? Was it just the Meldrum Bar site plan this far?
We haven't expended any of the funds.
Oh,
This
okay.
is the kickoff year where we're going to put in the playground equipment that we talked about with the Parks Board at the work session.
Okay. So
We're estimating to use $50,000. We've pre-approved that through West to make sure that's an eligible expense. Mr. Canaparoli took it to the Parks Board at his last meeting, and now they're going to start listening from a vendor on the playground equipment. And we're hoping that this summer, that's the project that we're going to be spending some of those funds on.
great, thank you.
Yeah, I guess I'll just close. I mean, we're very proud about what we do. Believe it or not, we love sewer and what we do for the community, and just stand ready in partnership. And any questions, especially about the financials, I know that's always an issue, and infrastructure is expensive. I'm very proud of the work that Wes has done over the past few years to both understand what our needs are, build financial models, work with the community, leverage through partnerships, and just be collaborative and open. So happy to answer any questions. And we'd love to have you come visit our facility.
I'll just say one more thing. As a elected official serving on the advisory committee, advisory board, as a city, we do our budget every 2 years. You maintain a budget annually, and you're entering into that budget process very soon. And I will just say, if you want to know anything about the capital improvement projects and the scope of those, the budget is very thorough in laying those out. You don't see a spreadsheet of numbers. You see good descriptions with photographs and good written descriptions of the projects that are coming ahead. So I value that kind of transparency. You have put it into context in a general sense for us here, but we can dig down as deeply as we'd like to with those documents because of the good preparation of your financial staff.
Thank you. And we do welcome that from the electeds that we serve to our advisory committee. Christopher's fantastic engineer, gets in the details, asks the hard questions. It makes us better. We love it.
So I have a question about the expansion of Tri-Cities facility, that you predict that more expansion will be necessary in about 2035, you said?
For the dry weather, yes.
Yeah. And then with that, what percentage of that expansion do you think will be necessary for Gladstone's facilities?
Oh, very little.
Very
Honestly,
little.
yeah, I mean Gladstone, we do population forecasting every
Mhm.
few years, either through PSU or Eco Northwest. And none of the ones that I recall seeing have any appreciable growth in Gladstone. There's something else I was gonna mention. Oh, I didn't mention it, but we are in the preliminary design phases of a wet weather expansion at the Tri-City facilities too. I should have included that in the slide. That's, we're essentially working on design, working on permitting right now. So that's a 2026, 2027 type timeframe for that. So in addition to, I mean, we need the outfall because we have so much flow, but we also, the leaky pipes are not going to fix themselves overnight. So we know we need an increment of wet weather capacity. We're trying to keep that increment as small as possible by investing in the inflow and infiltration reduction programs within the cities. So it's a balance.
Right.
We know we need to build more wet weather capacity. We just want to build only as much as we need.
With future expansion, do you see that coming out of, if Gladstone's impact is relatively negligible, do you see that future expansion coming out of the capital reserves for a capital project like that? Or will that be more of debt services taken on that will impact the Gladstone rate?
You know, in reality, it's both. So the way that it works is when a developer or even a homeowner wants to put in a home, there's a system development charge that's charged to that. And that is set aside by statute to pay for growth related projects. So that the idea being that growth pays for growth.
Okay.
In reality, it's a balance. And so there is, some ratepayer impact for Gladstone to pay for that infrastructure. Like I said earlier, and I'd be happy to come back and talk in more detail about it, but the return or the power that Gladstone gets to have all of those customers doing the rehab and rehabilitation and operation and maintenance of the current facilities versus what it would cost just Gladstone, I think it would far outweighs the negligible rate increase when you couple that with capital reserves and SDCs. Yeah, it's I don't necessarily have a good analogy for it, but within the city, some neighborhoods get sidewalks and the whole city pays for it. They get it that year, but somebody else gets it down the road. But overall, it works out. We're one, and the bigger, like I said, the economy of scale for us makes it fair for everybody.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification, Greg. I appreciate it.
Sure.
I appreciate I'm sure Gladstone, we appreciate your partnership and your time in the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Geist. All right, the next item on our agenda is the discussion regarding the pavement management program and strategies for ongoing street funding and city pavement condition index goals. Staff.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So when we held our city council goal setting session, we talked about our infrastructure. It is an adopted city council goal. And we talked about the condition of our streets in Gladstone. And in that presentation, we said that we had recently had our pavement management budget options report updated. And we provided that to you a couple of months ago so that you could start educating yourself on the system in Gladstone. Little bit of history. Last year, we came to the previous city council and we said we have $989,000 in our streets budget. The city has not done slurry seal or pavement management since COVID. And prior to 2019, we can't recall any systemic plan in place for pavement management. So at that time, we came to the city council and said, we have this much money. We have this antiquated pavement management study, and we need to just jump in and prioritize a package of streets for us to get done. That is why we came to the former city council and got into a discussion about what streets should we prioritize. We're not asking you to do that going forward because we've updated our plan. We've got buy-in from the city council that we're going to be committed to improving our streets. But what we do want to talk to you tonight is about adopting a pavement condition index standard for Gladstone. And if you look in your study on the executive summary, our average in Gladstone is and I'm going to refer to it as a PCI, we will for the rest of the night, is 67, which is fair condition in our streets. And the consultant that put this work together will tell you that we need to spend $21 million in the next 5 years to bring this entire street network into optimal condition. That will get us to an 86. We all know that is not financially possible to do that in Gladstone. We come to you with some solutions tonight, but I want to preface it by saying that we're basing our assumptions on the fact that as a council, you don't really have an interest in a state gas tax for Gladstone. You don't have an interest in implementing a street fee on the utility bills. And you don't have an interest in us going out for a bond for $26 million to fix all of them at once. If a majority of you tell us otherwise, then we'll come back to you at a future date with some more options. So what we're going to talk about tonight is what do we think we can financially commit to for the next 5 years based on what you would like to see us at? We know we need to be better than at fair, but is good enough for Gladstone as long as we're making improvement and committing money to getting our streets done? So that's the high level discussion that we want to have tonight. And our public works director is going to show you to date what streets have been completed, and it is color coded on there, so it's hard to see. So he's going to walk you through the ledger. And then we have a couple other slides that we're going to go through to show you what streets are going to be done in 2023, because he's going to explain to you why that ship has already sailed for this year. And we're going to come to you in the summer to approve a contract so that we're already have those package of streets underway. But what we're looking for is guidance so that we can bring back a resolution to the council to say, we want to try to be at our PCI at a number. So with that, Darren, do you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about this slide here?
Yes, so I know the legend's a little hard to read over there, but so all the green streets on there are streets that have been paved since the pavement management went into effect in 2016. A majority of those were done last year. I believe there's only 2 streets on that are in green that were not done last year. That helped keep our PCI where it is today at 67. The orange, that's all slurry seal that was done in 2019. The blue is slurry seal that was done in 2020. There was none done in 2021. There was none that was done in 2020 because of COVID. So, and then the red, that is all streets that were done last year during the summer season last year. So they had this pavement management start in 2016, but didn't do anything with it until 2019 was the first year that anything was done with it. So we've been focusing since then on going through the pavement management book and doing work out of that book as described to keep our PCI. We currently have $400,000 a year that we put into pavement management. That's your slurry seal, your crack seal, your paving, all of that stuff is done with that 400,000. If you read in the book, if we keep up at that pace, we will no longer be able to keep a PCI of 67. It will go backwards. We do not need to go backwards. We need to move forward is where we really need to be.
So just real quick though, every street in here, when you go through, like you see some, are 20, some are 24, some are 90, 91. That PCI is an average of our whole city.
That is correct.
So would it be sort of safe to say if we do come up with the money or the package, we're gonna address those ones first, the lower PCI ones?
Actually, that's not the way that the system works.
Oh, it's okay. That's what I was wondering.
So should I continue or?
Do you want us to continue?
Yeah, I think at this point, we're kind of hearing what was in the report coming directly from staff. And so I think folks can get caught up if they
Okay.
they need to.
So the pavement management program is what the process of that is keeping the roads that are in good condition, good, keeping the roads that are in fair condition in fair. And some of the roads that are in poor and very poor, there's not a lot you can do. They're so expensive to do anything. You have to do full replacement with it. That's where you get into your $21 million to get everything there. So what the whole idea is to keep what you have in the good and fair category, keep them there, not let them slip down into the poor or very poor category.
To keep our PCI up.
And that's a key piece of information because we're probably going to hear, well, why are we taking care of our poor streets if they rank the worst? And that gets into a conversation, then we have to start talking about finding other sources of revenue, like I mentioned with the gas tax, street fee, if we want to address those too. And we'll talk a little bit about how a council can make those decisions. But basically, you'd be committing your year's worth of money towards one street segment for a complete reconstruct because it's that expensive to do that.
Okay. That makes sense.
So with this map here, this is showing all of the streets that are going to be slurry sealed this coming year, or this coming summer. So we put that out. That has to go out to bid. We piggyback with the city of Hillsborough on their contract so that we can get better pricing with multiple cities involved with that. And I had to get that package to them back in January. They currently have that package. It's out to bid. I believe the bid is due this week with the city of Hillsborough. Once that comes back, then we'll know what we'll pay for our slurry seal for this year. So we had to kind of fast track that a little bit to be able to get in on that bid. Otherwise, we would have to go at it on our own, which brings the price up when you're a single entity that way. So
All of these streets being proposed come out of our plan.
yeah, everything that's been done on this one and on that one, every one of those are in the pavement management plan. All those are from 2016 till last year. And this is the start of this year out of this plan. So in this plan, like I said, we're keeping the streets that are in good condition, good. We're keeping the streets that are in fair condition, fair. You'll move with a slurry seal, you move your PCI up about 5 to 7 points. And then over time, you have to do maintenance to that. So after so many years, you go back through, you do crack seal over the top of that so that you don't get water down underneath. The whole problem is once you get water underneath your pavement, it starts eroding the base and everything else. And that's where you start getting expensive fix. When you're talking of redoing an entire road, base and all at $135 a square yard, where you're doing a slurry seal, that's about $3 a square yard. So there's a big cost difference there. If we can keep the roads that are in the good and fair condition in those conditions, we save money in the long run.
So that was gonna be my question, just answered. So when we do a crack or a slurry seal, it does boost the PCI on that street to keep our average up.
The slurry seal does quite a bit. The crack seal doesn't.
Oh, okay.
It's more of a maintenance thing to keep the water from getting underneath it.
Okay, man, but
So typically when we go in to do slurry seal, like these streets here, we'll go in and we'll fix any pavement that needs to be replaced. If there's some alligatoring or something like that, that'll be dug out and repaved. And then we go in and crack seal the entire street and then come in with a slurry seal over the top, and it fills any voids, everything when you do that. So it's almost like a brand new road, but not a brand new road.
it makes the PCI go up.
It does make the PCI go up,
Okay,
yes.
all right, and at a lower cost.
Much lower cost.
Okay, thank you.
Darren, one other question. The report makes a distinction between arterials and connectors, the level of usage of the streets. How do those different types of streets come into play when making decisions on where to do slurry seals and other maintenance? Do we try to maintain the streets that are used most frequently, or is there a balance? Can you give me some information on that?
It's to be honest with you, it's based off of funds. If you only have X amount of funds, the object is to do the most that you can do with those funds to keep everything kind of in check. The more money you have, obviously, the more you'll be able to get done, whether that's arterial collectors or residential.
Okay.
So it's really based off of dollar amounts, to be quite honest with you.
All right. Thank you.
And another factor that we would add, and you just saw tonight, our partnership with West, it was our second educational session on utilities. There's going to be a lot of projects under the ground happening in Gladstone, especially as we go through this I&I and fixing our connections. So not only does Darren have to try to package a slurry seal program from what's identified in the plan, but it doesn't make sense to do it on a street if we're going to tear it up in a year or two. So all of those factors play into the decisions that we make going forward on what streets take priority.
So it sounds like that complicates it just enough that this should not be like the decision that the council made a year ago when you had a sum of money and identified some areas and just kind of picked and chose among those. This is where Public Works staff is going to have to really coordinate the two ongoing projects to improve the streets themselves and to improve what's under the streets and make sure that those are coordinated in the most cost-effective way. And that's above our pay scale, but it's something that you need our guidance on so that you know, at least on the street component of it, how much we want to invest or how much we can afford to invest in a level that is acceptable to us.
That's correct. And that's why we have our finance consultant here tonight, because next she's going to talk a little bit about historically what we have spent and in her opinion, what she believes that the council could commit to for at least the next couple of years to up to 5 years.
And Darren, we interrupted you with a couple of questions. Do you want to, are you, is there more that you want to say before we hear from Kathy?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so first off, one of our mechanisms of funding our capital improvements, and this applies, of course, to streets and roads along with water, sewer, and storm too. Basically, we determine what the biennial funding is necessary in each of these funds, determined for all personnel services, materials and services, the contingency, and any reserves that need to be funded. Then basically whatever is left over is what we put into capital improvements for that biennium. And then basically with Public Works, we'll be working and determining how to spread that out, how to make it all the numbers work. So what I did is went back the last 4 bienniums, a total of 8 fiscal years, determined what we have been able to budget for systems and improvements each one of those bienniums, along with what we have actually paid to for slurry seal. Because as Darren said, slurry seal is coming out of our maintenance monies, not out of the capital monies. So looking at that and putting the numbers together, we come up spending an average per biennium for the last 4 of $1,816,500. And we have an average per fiscal year of just over 900,000 that is available for this. Now, this is starting to trend upwards because, needless to say, all income, our revenues are going up slowly, along with our expenditures are going up slowly and quickly. But as far as what I believe we will be able to look at in the future on a forecasting basis is right around between 900 to $1 million a year, per year, that would be able to go towards the streets and roads improvements that way.
So could you just explain why there's a difference between, and maybe I missed it in what you were saying, the $975,000 a year average that you're talking about and the reference to $400,000 a year as the current funding level? Why are those two figures different?
The 400,000 a year was for the maintenance side of the improvements, the slurry seal and the crack sealing. Those are maintenance items. They're not capital items. So we historically are able to fund approximately right around $1.5 million a biennium in the capital side, and then running around $300,000 to $500,000 on the operational side. So those dollars can be combined and utilized for this.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And so other than that, again, that would be your maximum capital available per year based on our historical and based what our forecasting is looking at in the future. So needless to say, there's a lot of factors that can affect that. But as long as the focus maintains on the improvement of the streets and roads, I would assume we would be able to count on approximately that amount each biennium.
So when we have this on this table 3.6 and we have table of summary outcome of different funding levels, and you look at the 550,000 and so is that saying the PCI after 5 years would have our average in our city at a 67 PCI?
That is correct.
So and then if you go to the next one, if you're saying 900 to $1 million, the next one's $1 million, that gets us up to 72, right? Is that?
That is correct.
That is our next slide that we're going to present to
I
you.
just wondered.
See, you
sort of makes
did
it-
your homework, counselor. Good job.
You would think you would just go, if we got $1 million, spend $1 million and get us up to a 72. I mean, is it not simple as that or no?
We're trying to make it as simple as that.
Okay.
And so, yes, that is the next slide that Darren is going to go over. Okay.
Jumping the gun.
Okay, so I ran some reports out of our pavement management software. To get to a 70 PCI, we would need to have around $722,000 per year. To get to a 71, we need about $794,000 a year. And then a 72 is right around $1 million a year. This would, we would run this out of the pavement management. We don't pick streets. We don't do anything. The computer does everything, again, to get the most bang for our buck. And we go through it that way. With having the money that Kathy was talking about, that's not going to leave us a whole lot of money to do anything else street related by spending, $1 million a year in just pavement management. If we go down to a 71, that does leave us with some funds that we're not going to be, if we had to go out and do other work, we would have some funds there to be able to do that.
What's an example of the other work beyond this that occasionally comes up? I mean, if a pothole appears that is just so dangerous, you have to give it some attention, or what's other?
Well, if let's say we have a water project and we need to, and they come in and they cut into the streets and stuff like that, to be able to fix that, that comes out of the streets budget.
Okay.
So when we need to go and do things like that, we've got to have money to be able to pay for it. It doesn't come out of the water fund, that comes out of the street fund. So we need to have some money there to be able to pay if we just start doing other infrastructure projects.
Okay. So it's more likely to be something tied to another infrastructure improvement rather than a repair that falls into the same categories we're looking at here.
That is correct.
Or an emergency.
Yeah, emergency as well too.
I just want to just be clear. So we talk about the 400,000 maintenance, that's for the storage and stuff, but this 900,000 to $1 million is a whole different fund, right? You're like, we're not like, you're saying a 71 PCI and there's 794, but you still already have the 400,000 somewhere else to do the storage.
That 794 is for the maintenance side of it, which is your slurry seal and your crack seal and your capital side. That is your total package for everything.
Yes.
Okay.
And we need to make that very clear, not tonight, but if we came back with a resolution that you're approving, we would need to make that very clear that that includes both.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So this may be a little nitty gritty, but how do we go from, or just could you help me understand how we go from $70,000 difference to get one more rating higher on the PCI, and then the next jump is 200,000? I just want to understand that difference.
So what that is you've got more money going towards your poor streets. You're not touching anything that's very poor. I can tell you that right now, because that's all complete reconstruct, but you'll have more money going toward your poor category than you will having your other ones, because things that are in the good category or in the fair category, that can all be taken care of with maintenance. They're cheaper, easier to do. But when you get to going to the poor category, that's where you're going to start spending a lot more money to be able to get there.
So improvements definitely are happening, but they're just really not altering that PCI all that greatly.
Correct. And what you've got to remember too is you're fixing things that are on the deferred maintenance list, but you're fixing them at a very, very slow pace.
Yeah.
And so what the idea is, let's say you start out with a deferred maintenance of $7 million at year one, and by the time of year 5, you're going to still be way up there, like $19 million. It's a slow fix for the things in the poor category.
Right.
So if this chart had, gone up beyond this to 73, 74, 75, the increments in between would have gotten gradually larger until you got the 4.25 million needed to get to an 86. So that makes sense. So as we look at this and the numbers you've given us so far, and the need for enough flexibility to handle emergencies or other street work unrelated to this, it looks like a PCI of 71 is the level we could get to, which would take us from what, fair to good?
Yeah, that would put us in the good category.
Okay.
Yeah.
Low end of good, but still good.
What would be the difference in deferred maintenance from today to 5 years from today if we did proceed with option B or option 2 of 71?
So your deferred maintenance would be at 18.869 million at the end of year 5.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple of questions. So when I had asked earlier for the, what we had voted on before and what the plan was going to do for that, my ask for that was wondering, for the amount of money that we had, how much of that got done? Or how much were you able to do? I should put it that way, because it's more of an information thing. What's the percentage of that based on inflation and things like that, that actually got done.
You're talking about the funds that were approved by the previous city council?
Correct.
Okay.
So that package that we brought, what was it? I think 3 different packages to you
Right.
guys. And you guys selected one package.
Correct.
We completed everything on that, in that package.
Within the amount of money that we had, or did we have to go out and get some additional funds?
We actually got it in under budget.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. So, and then, thank you for sharing that, because that's what I was trying to get at when I asked for that. So the other thing I wanted to know is, I guess I'm a little bit confused on Kathy's numbers. When you say that you gave us that 900 to 1 million, which included maintenance and overall street improvement. I guess I'm a little bit confused as to then why are we talking about this 71 and coming in at less if we're already spending 900 to $1 million?
Hey, when I say 900 to $1 million, please recognize that that accounts for the slurry seal and the crack sealing,
Correct.
which is maintenance money. It's not all the maintenance money. We also have other maintenance items that we have to do within the roads and streets too. But the amount of money that is considered crack sealing and slurry seal, we would combine that amount with the capital money that we accrue every year, not as far as what is allowable in the budget. That is where I come up with the $1 million, the 900 to 1 million. So roughly 600,000 of that is through capital. 400,000 of that would be through maintenance.
Okay, this is where I was a little bit confused, I think. So when you ask for $794,000 a year in order to get us to the 71 PCI, you're actually saying 794 plus the 400,000.
No. No. No.
I
Look
thought
at
you-
it in total. Look at it at the total
exactly.
794. Of that 794, the bulk of it would be financed with capital money. A small portion, a smaller portion would be financed through maintenance money that is allocated to slurry seal and crack sealing.
So my question is, why would we be budgeting for less than the 900 to 1 million you talked about?
That's a policy decision you could make, but in a catastrophic event, or it inhibits our ability to do other things as they come up. This provides you a little bit of a buffer that we could spend up to 1 million if we had to, but it doesn't commit you to it.
Okay, so we are not currently spending 900 to 1 million as a whole. We are currently spending what was our budgeted amount in last year's, 2 years ago budget? Or what are we currently, what's the current outlay?
For the 21-23 biennium, the one we're
Yes.
currently in, we had a total of 1.5 million in capital money, 2 years. And then we had 279,000 that we spent on crack seal, slurry seal out of the maintenance side for a total of 1.8 million. And that was for the 21-23. What I'm forecasting for the 23-25 year is 1.9 million in capital and 400,000 in the maintenance monies. So that would combine for a total of 2.3 million. I believe where Darren and I, we're concerned as far as targeting 1 million every single year is because of those other situations that may come up, such as if there was a water or sewer line break where Darren has to, Public Works has to tear up the street. We've got to then come up with the monies to be able to repair that street, which might not be part of the PCI plan.
Right. So I think part of my question here would be, do we have that maintenance side and that capital side? There's a definite, push and pull, driving a stick shift car kind of thing. So not lessening that $400,000 a year, which gives you your emergency fund, but then that hard and fast capital that would remain the same and doesn't have a lot of leverage as to how you use it. Am I hearing that right?
I'm sorry, I'm not following your
So,
question there.
because you're talking about two different funds. One is the capital fund for streets and the other is maintenance funds.
Those are not separate funds. They're expenditure categories within streets and roads. And we have the ability to assign the amount of money that we're putting in there. The distinction between the two is that capital are the types of long-term improvements that significantly improve the asset that you're working on, that you're spending that money on. Maintenance is an annual type of item. Slurry seal, crack sealing is an annual type of item. So from an accounting standpoint, we categorize that as a maintenance item. The other items where we're going in and we're significantly improving the useful life of an asset, those are a capital item. But for this type of project, you're using a mixture of the two.
It all comes from street funds.
Yes.
Okay, and so I guess my question is, when I look at street funds on the budget next year, and last year it said $1 and this year it says $3, that's a significant increase in money. So I'm wondering what that overall increase is going to be, because once we vote on this, then that will be a hard and fast dollar amount then that we've already agreed to.
It would be an amount that you're agreeing to, that you're striving for, but it is always going to depend on our revenues. We could have a significant drop in gas tax revenues. You're not going to be able to generate $1 million then to be able to utilize towards this. This is based on historical. This is based on our best forecast we can give right now. So it would be a number that you're striving for. It's not something that would be absolutely guaranteed that you have to spend each year in and year out.
And really, as a policy body, what you're saying is to the community is we're making a commitment to fix our streets at incremental levels, and we're going to strive to be at a 71 PCI. Then it's up to management to figure out how we utilize those existing funds in the street funds to make that happen. If we come back to you and recommend the 71, we still have that flexibility to use up to the $1 million, but we're not over allocating funds for a rainy day if we need them. And so that's what we wanted you to think about tonight. But like I said and prefaced in the beginning, if you want us to explore more options to increase revenue to address some of those poor streets, we'd be happy to do that too. And so this is the starting point of having a conversation about how do you feel with the information that we've provided tonight?
One more question to help clarify some of the issues that Councilor Garlington raised. The $794,000, you're able to pull this off, as you said, by a computer program. You can plug in a PCI goal and they can sort of recommend where the work would be done. I assume that 794, that program would also break down how much of that would be slurry and crack, the normal stuff that normally comes into the maintenance budget, and how much of it would be categorized in the capital expenditure line item. So that breakdown could actually be almost, on a forecast basis, you could break it down almost to the $1,000 at that level too.
That is correct.
Okay.
And if it turned out, for the years that we're looking at, that the maintenance items, the slurry seal and crack sealing, were coming in at a higher amount, we would reduce the capital and put it to the maintenance side. So you're still achieving the same result.
Okay.
Yes.
That's helpful. Now, Administrator Betts started by asking us about how we felt about possible revenue increases that would include either an item added to the utility bill or a local gas tax or something. I wasn't hearing a lot of buy-in on that. Are we still in the
No.
same place? Did she read us correctly on that? Okay, okay. So this option of being able to go at higher levels than this by exploring some revenue increases does not appear to have a lot of traction on the council right now. So, but I think we are pretty clear that from this chart, we can see a level that would be a good goal to set as a policy. And then that could be, we could revisit that in future years when we are more capable or less capable of achieving a higher goal in the future.
That's correct. And to go from fair to good is a improvement, and it's showing the constituents that you are making a commitment to the street system. And again, we're not asking for you to adopt that tonight, but if you're feeling comfortable with a 71 range, then we actually can print you information from the software to show you about the preventative maintenance versus the rehabilitation for the next 5 years. We plan on coming back to you probably in late August or September with a resolution. So that was the intent of tonight, is to
And-
talk, and it's actually pretty favorable news to hear that without having to raise rates or impose a fee, we're still going to be able to address our streets and keep the good ones in good condition and upgrade our other ones.
And this is not something that we're not seeking this information or this policy in order to shape the upcoming biennium budget, because that's pretty much in the works already.
Correct.
It's based on what we're already projecting that budget to be. So that's why the resolution won't be coming to us until well after the budget is adopted.
That's correct. And we already have submitted our projects for the slurry seal this year. That contract will come to you for approval. And then we will market in the community what streets are being addressed at that time. But yes, that is correct, Mayor.
And just so we all know, I looked up my own street. You can all look up your own. Mine has a future lifetime of 0. It's already completely, in the worst shape it could be. And we live with that on Welcher Circle. But you will hear from members of the community who live on streets that are in very poor condition and will wonder why the money is not being invested in their own. And I think we've gotten some information to help you respond to those people. And we know the people on staff that we can refer them to if you don't want to respond to them directly. But that is good to know. I've heard this discussion of the use of slurry seals over the years from previous public works administrators. I never had as clear an explanation of it as I did from this report. And it's helpful to have that and to know that. As electeds, we need to be conversant in those things. And so I appreciate the presentation tonight.
I just wanted to agree with the mayor and say that that was incredibly informative. I found that very helpful. So thank you all. When we do come back with more numbers in the future, will that include future neglected maintenance? The word's not coming to me, but deferred maintenance costs with the 72 rating? Because I'm interested in what that number comes out to also.
We could actually run reports on all 3 of those numbers that show you the preventative, the rehabilitation for the next 5 years. We'd be happy to get that information to you.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. I like the 71 number looking at these, but I am curious to see what those other numbers shake out to. Thank you.
I guess I got one more question. So I've lived here a long time, so I've seen it in the past. So what do you do, Darren, to make sure, like, say we pick this and we go with that and we're gonna slurry seal or whatever? How much further or forward thinking or ahead do you look to make sure that we don't look the streets nice and then we go back and dig it up? Because I have seen that in the past here. Do you get, before you do a street, I guess I'm asking, do you look at the pipes and see this is bad, we got to get in there, so let's just take that street off the table for right now, or how does that work?
Right. So for a good example of that is the paving that we did last year. We have the I&I project that's coming up. And when I put those lists together last year, I went through all of the I&I stuff to see where we're doing work on the
Oh,
pipes
yeah,
and
there
stuff
you go.
like that, so that we don't, the idea is you don't go in and pave a street and then immediately go in and tear the street up, because
Exactly.
that then takes your PCI and drops your PCI.
Okay.
So the idea is to look ahead at projects you've got in the queue, or, with, realistically 5 years out, you should be looking at that. Knowing when you're going to be doing those projects and when you're going to come in and do paving or anything like that. And you can take and move streets from 1 year to another year
Oh,
when you're going to go do that. You're still taking it out of the pavement management plan, but you just move it to another year because we're going to go in and we're going to do this year on this street or something like that.
outstanding. Thank you. And yes, this was very
And,
understandable.
and that's why it's really good that we have this intergovernmental agreement with Wes for them to assist in the work on the I&I, because, we're able to do more and forecast its completion earlier, which gives us that much better information and data on where to do the street improvements and where to postpone them until the I&I can be done.
And I'll give you just one more real-time example. Darren and I had a conversation because Portland Avenue was included on this year's schedule for slurry seal. We just applied for a grant to engineer and plan for the downtown revitalization plan on 5 sections. So we decided not to do the slurry seal maintenance there because we're optimistic that we're going to get the funding and move forward, but then we can come back and do it at the appropriate time. So those are the kinds of decisions that we have to think forward thinking.
All right.
And
Thank you very much.
I wanted to just say thank you for the budget clarification, because when budget numbers get out of whack, you immediately think, okay, well, where are we not paying, or where are we taking money from, that kind of thing. So I always want to be really careful about that. And Mayor Milch, I just want to make you know that you cannot call my house and say, how come you're not fixing my street? Because you all heard him say that it was okay. He was going to live with it.
All right. This concludes item 2 of the, or item 3 of the agenda, the second item in the work session. So we now reconvene into a special meeting to go back to item 1, consider appointment to the vacant city council position. And Councilor Reichel, you're still there. Very good. I can see you on the screen. We're all here again. All right. You've had some chance to think about this.
I'm happy to throw out more options. But if you guys want to deliberate, you go for it.
All right. Well, let's hear from the expert. Administrator Betts, do you have some other options that we might consider so that we're not starting from scratch here?
You have your 2 candidates here tonight. You could do an impromptu, tell us why we should pick you question and let them respond to you, 3 minutes. You could draw straws. You could pick a name from a hat. Those are just ideas that I would suggest, because it's almost like you're a jury in a trial and you must deliberate until you come to a decision, unless the majority of you decide that you want to consider this at a later date or extend the application period again. So those are really your options to consider tonight.
Well, it occurs to me that having a council with 6 members rather than 7 will create more opportunities for 3-3 votes in the future. And when you're voting, try to affirm something and the vote is 3-3, that means the motion is defeated. So I would like to see us have a 7-member council and hope that we could come to a way to achieve that tonight. Are there reactions from council members on some of the suggestions that Administrator Betts made for us?
Well, I'd like to avoid drawing straws or flipping coins.
Okay. We did not prepare either of the applicants for the possibility that we would do another interview tonight. But would you both be willing to come forward and have us ask you to give us one more reason to choose you? Maria? All right. All right. Sierra and Maria, please come forward.
You have to hit the button.
All right, you were both present for the discussion. Glowing things were said about both of you, about why people on this council would like to have you as a colleague. So I will ask you, just give us in a couple of minutes, more reasons why you think you would be well-suited to occupy this seat. Maria, would you like to go first?
I was gonna have her go.
I can go first.
All
'cause
right,
I
all
feel
right,
like
that's fine.
You interviewed first the first time, so
Okay.
that's why we'll switch.
All
We'll
right,
switch it
we'll
up a little
switch.
bit. So yes, so I am Sierra Cook. I think, I don't know, I'm just very excited that you have two awesome candidates, one of which is me, but Maria, I think, is also a phenomenal candidate. I think the reason that I applied for this position is that I think my background of involvement with the city of Gladstone makes me a strong candidate for this position. I've spent 2 years on the audit and budget committees, being involved, printing out the city's budget and going through it in as much detail as I can to be to have a strong awareness and to be a qualified volunteer for the city of Gladstone. In addition to volunteering for the city, I volunteered on my own. After the ice storm 2 years ago, I volunteered with the Gladstone Mutual Aid Group, getting food to families. I drove boxes of food to people who were stuck in their homes. We served hot meals to folks during the ice storm. I've done work with Happy Rock Families, trying to promote the business of the city and involvement in the city of Gladstone, and promote the city of Gladstone to the greater Portland metropolitan area. Regardless of the decision of the council tonight, I'm so excited for the future for Gladstone. I think there's a lot of bright things ahead. And I thank you for your time and your consideration.
All right, thank you, Sierra. Maria?
Wow, to follow that. I also want to echo Sierra and say I think you are a fabulous candidate as well. I have longevity in Gladstone and interest in Gladstone politics. I attend not in person because COVID, but online, most meetings online. So that's why you don't see me. But I have long been interested. I've lived in Gladstone for 10 years. I also went to school here. I also worked here before I lived here. And now I work here again. So I think that it shows that I'm a resident that's probably going to stick around. I have a vested interest. And my community involvement has also been library committees, various committees to try to get that library built hopefully soon. And then just the fact that I am interested in the different social aspects like social media, and I pay attention to what's happening, what people want, things that are going on that need to I'm so sorry. I'm like hungry at this point, so it's very distracting. So just paying attention to the needs and wants of the community. And I feel like I have to my ear to the ground to those things. And I feel like I represent those interests for Gladstone. And thank you for your time.
All right, thank you both. All right, you can take your seats and we will continue to deliberate. I will entertain a motion from or more deliberation, discussion from council before we move on to perhaps another vote or other action. All right, could we bring the tally board up again? So I propose we make one more effort to do this by vote of the council. Any objection to that?
No, I just
Okay.
have one question.
Sure.
There was I was reading.
Microphone.
From Ashland and they were talking.
Microphone.
Sorry. And they were talking about how long cities, and I should have looked this up and I didn't, how long cities have to fill a vacancy. Not looking to prolong this, just asking. Do we have a timeline?
There's not a timeline, but in my conversations with the city attorney, as long as you are actively seeking applications, interviewing and progressing to a decision. Now, this probably is getting to a point where he would chime in and say, you guys need to wrap it up and select somebody. I can certainly phone a friend and that would be Chad. If you'd like me to do that tonight, I'm not sure he would be able to offer any more insights into what I did, but I'm happy to do that. This really is a city council decision. But at some point, he and I will both say, you need to just make that decision.
That's acceptable. I just was asking if we
Yeah.
had, I didn't know if we had some of those had like 25 days,
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was surprised.
We don't have that language. We did have language that described the means by which the vacancy was to be
Right.
filled based on the amount of time remaining in the in the seat. Yes.
Okay.
And that was 17 months, I think, was the cutoff. And but we have and we had more than that, which is why we're doing an interim appointment followed by an election in November.
Right.
Okay. All right. We have that understanding. Any other questions or comments before we give one more try at doing this by vote? Okay. Tammy, will you call the roll, please?
Counselor Garlington,
Maria Mitchell,
Counselor Roberts,
Sierra Cook.
Counselor Reichel,
This is so hard because I love you both. Sorry. Sierra Cook.
Counselor Alexander,
Maria Mitchell.
Counselor Huckabee,
Sierra Cook.
Mayor Milch.
Sierra Cook. So the council has voted 4-2 for Sierra Cook. That constitutes a majority of a 6-member council. So I will now entertain a motion to appoint Sierra Cook to the Gladstone City Council.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we council appoint Sierra Cook to fill the vacancy on the city council up until the November election certification. Any more discussion? Okay. Tammy, can you call the roll, please?
Counselor Garlington,
yes.
Counselor Roberts,
Yes.
Counselor Reichel,
Yes.
Counselor Alexander,
What happens if one of us say no?
It's still a majority of the
Okay, well,
vote.
yes.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the vote passes. So Sierra Cook, you have been appointed and Administrator Betts is ready to administer the oath of office. Maria, thank you for sticking with us through this process from the beginning. As others said, those of you who stepped up right away, that's very valued from those of us up here. So we appreciate that. There will be an election in November to fill the remainder of this seat. And everyone in the community will have an opportunity, everyone qualified in the community will have an opportunity to run. So if at that time you would like to put your name in the running, you are welcome to do that. And thank you for being here tonight. Sierra, come forward, please.
Hey, I, Sierra Cook, do solemnly swear
I, Sierra Cook, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Oregon
and the state of Oregon
and the Charter and Municipal Code of the City of Gladstone,
and the Charter and the Municipal Code of the City of Gladstone,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
perform the duties of City Councilor
perform the duties of City Councilor
for the City of Gladstone, Oregon,
for the City of Gladstone, Oregon,
during my entire term.
during
so
my
help-
entire term.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Okay.
Oh. Thank you. Any of you who have copies of your notes from the interviews, if you want to turn those in, we'll give those to Tammy for her records.
Hey, that one is for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
If you wouldn't mind coming up here and taking a seat, Counselor Cook.
Oh.
Well, under any other circumstances, the person who was appointed would be participating in a work session about now, but we moved the agenda around a little and you avoided that. But I can see that both of you are out there, were listening. And so I know we have at least two or more citizens in the community well educated on these subjects now. We look forward to working with you in the future. We have no other items on our agenda tonight, and we don't usually do business from the audience and those things at work sessions. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilor Huckabee, seconded by Councilor Alexander to adjourn the meeting. Will we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Huckabee.
Yes.
Counselor Alexander.
Yes.
Counselor Reichel.
Yes.
Counselor Cook.
Yes.
Counselor Roberts.
Yes.
Counselor Garlington.
Yes.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the meeting is adjourned at 7:31 PM. Thank you.